Welcome to the Mudfest Artist Interviews. We'll get straight into it. So, artist, what is your name?
Joel Keith.
Amazing. And what are your pronouns?
He there.
What are you studying?
I'm in this kind of weird nether space between a Bachelor of Music and a Bachelor of Arts that I haven't applied to, and I'm waiting to see if I get it.
Fantastic. And what will you be majoring in when you do arts?
Probably a double major in creative writing and English and theatre studies.
Amazing. So that kind of makes sense with your work with the creative writing, right?
Yeah, it's pretty predictable.
Yeah. So where was your first home?
So my first home was in Sydney in Houston Park.
Yeah.
Which I don't really remember because I was a baby.
So where did you go after that?
To another house in Houston Park that I remember slightly more, and then to Darwin.
Amazing. So you've been all around Australia.
Yeah.
So why did you choose Melbourne then for university?
Because when you graduate high school in Darwin, basically everybody chooses Melbourne. So I just kind of followed the lemmings off the cliff, and it's worked out so far.
Yeah, well done. So what do you picture, I guess, when you think of home?
Kind of boringly, the house that I had spent most of my childhood in, which was in Darwin. Which I spent, yes, most of my childhood in, and like almost all of the portions of my childhood that I have any real memory of.
Yeah, amazing. So did you find like when you were a kid, a lot of like the activities and stuff that you would do were like in the home, like crafting or writing or something like that as well? Or?
I suppose. I was never like, I wasn't a massive reader or writer really until like quite near the end of high school.
Yeah.
But I suppose my house was the one that kind of got arbitrarily decided early on to be like the hangout zone of my various friends. So yeah, I suppose like a lot of my memories happened in my house.
Amazing. You said you didn't really get into reading or writing much until like later in high school. Was there like a particular novel or author that got you into it?
There was a few in quick succession. So it was, I think this was year 12, and I was, looking for reasons to not do the work that I was being assigned in year 12. And one of the reasons I came up with was reading. And I read They Can Kill Us Until They Kill Us, the essay collection by Henry Fedoraki, and Another Country by James Baldwin, like basically back to back. And my mind was essentially gone.
Never going back.
Yeah, and I kind of, because I was already like very, very into music and movies and things.
Yeah.
And these, there was like two books that were very much like taking these like forms that I was already in love with, these like, music and like jazz and Carly Rae Jepsen and whatever. And like, kind of connecting them to like everything that was going on around with like, these other kind of, lives in other countries, and these, politics and all these things. It was like, I think it was like a natural way into writing, kind of taking me from like what I was already interested in, and kind of
really
exploding
that. Yeah. Amazing. So in terms of your Mudfest work, what is the title?
More Stories About Buildings and Food.
Incredible.
A play on the Talking Heads album title. Which kind of started out as just like a working title and then worked well enough for me to keep it.
Amazing. And do you want to describe the work a little bit?
Yeah, so it's basically a suite of 5 short stories that I'll be reading live in the Mudfest, in the Union House basement. With live ambient music accompaniment, so kind of granular synthesis stuff. I'm taking recordings from various soundscapes in like nature and urban environments in the suburbs and things, and kind of processing those and creating these live musical soundscapes that are going to be played along with the short stories, kind of reactively to them, by a composer friend of mine, Emma Beilharz. And then it's all going to take place in this kind of strange pseudo-living space that's going to be set up, that's going to combine sculptures built from reclaimed pieces of furniture, like a couch or water bubbler, various things that are going to have images projected onto them. It's all going to be done by a friend, Claire Summerville, who's a sculptor. So it's basically going to create this kind of multimodal, combination of story and performance and sculpture and photography and sound.
Amazing. That's incredible. And how do you kind of imagine the audience interacting with that?
So the space is kind of going to be set up on like the far end of the basement, and then we'll have cushions and chairs and things that the audience can kind of place around, kind of melting into it. Going back as far as they need, it's a pretty big space.
Amazing. Yeah. That's so great. Is there any particular thing that you want your audience to take away?
Nothing specific, I suppose. I guess I hope that the stories are good enough that they take away whatever it is they like to take away from stories that affect them in any way. Yeah.
Incredible. I really like the idea of the collaboration between all of those elements with like the sculpture, the stories, and the music as well. How has that process been in the actual like creation of that? Are you all working quite closely together, or is it quite separate and it's going to be a bit spontaneous when you come in together?
So they're all kind of built from the stories. So the way the process has kind of been happening is we've like, every now and then we've like gotten together and kind of chatted about what the overall vision is. That hasn't happened heaps because, you know, COVID and various things and just like conflicting schedules. But what's basically been happening is I've, you know, got a story to a point that it's maybe not publishable or not like presentable yet, but the kernel of the idea is there, and the kind of, you know, the essence of it is kind of clear. And then I'll send it off to Claire and Emma, and basically, you know, they'll like talk to me about what it is they think they might do, and we'll kind of workshop or like go back and forth about it. We'll get an idea, and then they'll go off and work on their part of it, and then as Mudfest draws closer, we'll start getting together and kind of putting it all together and rehearsing and seeing how it all kind of coalesces.
Incredible. I'm really looking forward to it. And do you have any upcoming projects or anything else happening at the moment?
Not heaps. You know, some kind of short stories that I've thrown out into the abyss to see if they get picked up anywhere. So we'll wait and see if they do. But I have some stories that that are going to be featured in potentially slightly changed, but you know, recognizable forms in the show. So I have Reunion Tour, which is out in Farrago, Still Life, which is coming out in the next issue of Voiceworks, and A Case of You, which is named for the Joni Mitchell song, which was shortlisted for the Peter Cowan Young Writers Award, and is going to be hopefully finding a home somewhere soon. So watch out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for